Hey, everyone, get this. Remember all that buzz about large language models? The whole AI thing, writing poems, composing music, even cracking jokes. And sometimes those jokes are actually funny.
It's true, these systems are developing at an incredible pace.
Exactly. And today we're going behind the scenes to unpack one of the biggest names in the game, Meta's Llama 2. We're lucky enough to have some excerpts from their research paper, which is great because I was going to try and get my hands on that anyway. It's like getting a sneak peek at the magician's playbook, right?
It is fascinating to see how they've approached building and training Llama 2. They've really upped the ante from the previous version.
Okay, so unpack that a little for us. What's different this time around?
One of the most significant changes is the sheer volume of data they use to train Llama 2. It's a 40% increase from the original Llama, which means they fed this thing trillions and trillions of words and code.
Okay, but hold on. More data, more problems. Like, how do they even begin to make sense of all that information, let alone make sure it's not completely off the rails?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of their approach with Llama 2. It's not just about throwing more data at the problem, it's about using the right data.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. If you want to be a world-class chef, you don't just eat anything, right? You focus on quality ingredients.
So would they put the AI on a digital diet?
Essentially, they were incredibly selective about the data they used, even scrubbing some from specific websites to ensure user privacy wasn't compromised.
So it's like they're building good habits from the get-go. And I guess that makes sense, especially when you're talking about something as powerful as Llama 2.
Absolutely. Another significant change is the way they've enhanced Llama 2's memory. Imagine reading a paragraph and only remembering half of it. That's how the original Llama worked, more or less. Now imagine doubling that capacity. That's what they've done with Llama 2 by doubling the context length to 4096 tokens.
Okay, break that down for me. What are tokens in this context?
Think of tokens like puzzle pieces of words. Llama 2 can now hold twice as many of those pieces in mind at any given time, allowing it to grasp more complex ideas and conversations.
So it can follow along with what you're saying, even if you're talking about a bunch of different things at once. Kind of like, a really good conversationalist.
Yes, exactly. This means Llama 2 is better at things like summarizing long documents, following complex instructions, even having a more nuanced and natural-sounding conversation. It's a game changer.
And they said speed improvements, right? I caught something in the research paper about grouped query attention, or GQA. Honestly, the technical details kind of flew over my head.
Don't worry, it's a mouthful, and the specifics get pretty deep in the weeds. Essentially, GQA is a new trick they've taught Llama 2 to make it faster without losing any of its smarts.
Okay, but what does that mean for someone like me or, anyone using AI in their daily life?
It means you'll see faster response times from those AI-powered assistants, but without sacrificing the quality of their output. Think of it like upgrading to a faster internet connection. Everything loads quicker, but you're still getting the same great content.
That's a great analogy. So they basically supercharged this thing on all fronts, more data, better memory, faster processing. It's like the luxury sedan of AI models or
Yeah,
something.
you could say that. But as you can imagine, with great power.
Comes great responsibility. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Let's talk about the safety aspect, because you can't just unleash something this powerful without making sure it plays by the rules right. It's kind of like raising a digital kid, isn't it? You've got to set boundaries and make sure it develops into a well-adjusted AI.
Yeah.
Did they talk about how they're approaching this whole safety thing in the paper?
They did. They actually dedicated a significant portion of the paper to their safety measures, and it's clear they're taking it seriously. One of the things they focused on is analyzing the data for any potential biases. Remember all that data we talked about? They didn't just blindly feed it into Llama 2.
So like quality control for AI, making
Oh
sure
my
there's
God.
nothing funky in the mix.
Exactly, like meticulously sifting through ingredients before you bake a cake. You don't want any unwanted surprises in the final product. They want to make sure that Llama 2 is as neutral and objective as possible.
But how do you even begin to test something like that? It's not like you can just ask the AI, hey, are you biased?
Right. You're right, it's much more complex than that. To really push the limits and see how robust Llama 2 is, they assembled a red team.
A red team, like a digital SWAT team, but for AI.
Essentially, it's a group of over 350 experts from various fields, cybersecurity, ethics, you name it. And they were tasked with poking and prodding Llama 2, trying to find any vulnerabilities or blind spots.
So they threw everything they had at it, trying to make it crack.
That's intense.
That's intense.
It is, but that's how you make sure it can withstand real-world scenarios. They bombarded it with tricky questions, presented it with ethical dilemmas. Even tried to see if they could get it to generate harmful or misleading content. It's like putting it through a rigorous obstacle course to make sure it's up to the challenge.
Makes you wonder what they found. Did Llama 2 pass with flying colors, or were there some surprises along the way? And what happens when you have to make an AI safer? Does it lose that creative spark?
That's the million-dollar question, and the paper actually touches on this. It seems like even the researchers are wrestling with the balance between safety and maintaining the AI's ability to think outside the box.
It's like you want to keep it from saying anything offensive, but you also don't want to stifle its creativity. That's a tough needle to thread. What else did they find out while building Llama 2? I bet there were some surprises, right? So spill the tea. What kind of surprises are we talking about? Did they uncover any AI secrets while building Llama 2?
They definitely found some intriguing things. One discovery that really jumped out at me was Llama 2's ability to outperform human writers in certain tasks.
Wait, seriously? The student has become the master.
It seems that way, at least in some specific areas. They found that Llama 2 could generate text that was more fluent and coherent than what even experienced human writers could produce, especially when it came to certain technical or specialized topics.
Okay, that's both impressive and a little unnerving, right? What's next? AI ghostwriters for hire.
Well, it's not about replacing human creativity entirely. Think of it more like a powerful tool that can augment and enhance what we're already capable of doing.
So, like, instead of spending hours trying to summarize a dense research paper, you could have Llama 2 do it for you in minutes, and then you can focus on the bigger picture analysis.
Exactly. And there's another surprising thing they discovered about Llama 2. Remember how we talked about its improved memory? Well, it turns out that Llama 2 might also be developing a sense of time.
Hold on, AI can tell time now. Is it checking its digital watch between writing poems?
Not exactly, but it's pretty wild. You see, the data they used to train Llama 2 was all shuffled up, out of order. But somehow Llama 2 seems to be able to understand chronology and the passage of time.
So even though the information was all jumbled up, Llama 2 figured out how to put things in order, like it's piecing together a timeline in its digital brain.
Precisely. It's as if Llama 2 is developing its own internal clock, even though it wasn't explicitly taught that concept.
That's mind-blowing. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What would you say are the biggest takeaways from this deep dive?
I think the key takeaway here is just how rapidly AI is evolving. Llama 2 is a perfect example of that. We're talking about a system that can generate human-quality text, understand complex concepts, and maybe even grasp the concept of time.
And let's not forget, all of this is happening right now, not in some distant future. Llama 2 is a glimpse into what's possible, and it's both exciting and a little daunting, right?
Absolutely. And while this research paper gives us a sneak peek behind the curtain, it also raises more questions than it answers.
Which is a good thing, right? It means there's still so much more to explore and discover in the world of AI. So for all you listeners out there who are as fascinated by this stuff as we are, keep your eyes peeled because this is only the beginning.